With all the AI that's out there, it's fantastic, right? It buys back time. But what are we doing with that time?
Yeah.
So technology is a great tool, but we have to take it back to the basics.
Yeah. We bring on people that can still help us. They're even above and beyond where we're at. We want to still learn. We still want to be the best. And so in order to do that, you have to hire up, not down.
Thank you so much, Melissa Oliver, Laurie Lyons, for both being here. This is really exciting that you're sharing with me about your new company that you've launched. Incredible history that you both have. So Laurie, I remember meeting you probably over 10 years ago, and just your passion, your connectivity, but your intentionality really stood out to me. And I really want to kick it off first about leadership and being a CEO. I think many people think, as you go through your careers, you're great at certain things, but becoming a CEO and being a leader is very different than the minutia work. And Laurie, you were a CEO at what, 25, 26, very young age.
Yeah, that was just last year.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were a CEO and you were kind of like thrust into the role, or you took on the role. Can you tell us a little bit about that time of being a CEO and maybe some of the things you've learned?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing that I learned, it was really, the CEO wasn't like being a bold, like do as I say, whatever. It was really kind of more of a mentorship. And it was where you do a lot. It's a supportive role, in my opinion. Like you're supporting everybody and everything else.
Yes.
And so it's important to listen and to also be real with the people. Like I told them all the mistakes that I made, and I still do. People love it. Like it's a laughing stories always, right? But letting them know that, hey, I was in your shoes. I made those mistakes. Embrace it. Know the mistakes. Own it. And how can we change from it? So it's really, to me, it's more of a supporting role for all of your people.
And I'd love to ask you, I mean, being the CEO, your partners together in this, but being the leader and having that ultimately comes down to the CEO, the decision making. Can you share a little bit about your story or maybe some of the things that people should know?
Yeah. So years ago, early in my career, well before I was a leader, somebody said to me, "What do you think leadership means? What do you think it means?" And I sat there and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I know the definition, but when it comes down to one word, it's influence. So that always stuck with me, is to make sure you have a positive influence on anyone that you're surrounding yourself with: clients, teammates, residents, vendors, everyone. So you just want to have a good influence.
When you say influence, so is that the feeling that the other people aren't just listening, that what you're saying, they're now bought into? It's the communication that goes into that influence. You're tying in all these different pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're tying it all together. It's full circle, right? Yeah. It's being an influencer, but having people buy in. They follow you. They want to be around you. They love your energy. They feed off of it.
Is there someone that helped shape your career that was a CEO, maybe before you were a CEO or as you were a CEO, that really stood out? Whether it was someone you knew in the industry, whether it was real estate, or maybe someone outside the industry that you met or didn't even meet that was an author. Anyone that stood out to you, and any stories there?
I had multiple people, but I had a lot of, I went from Harry Brookie was a great leader to me, right? And he really inspired me, and that, I'll never forget that. But then I also remember walking to one of my first properties, and that was kind of like, I'm going to teach them how to do things. And I walked in, and there was this woman was sitting there in College Station, and she was surrounded with all of these trophies that she had won from the Texas Apartment Association. And she had been doing this for 20 some years more than I had. And she was very, very inspiring to me. And I realized, like, here's my opportunity to pause, listen, learn from her, etc. And so it really was kind of both ends of the spectrum for me on people that really mentored me.
And, I want to ask you, was there, as you look back to earlier versions of yourself as a leader, what's a belief or habit that you had that maybe you had to unlearn to scale and lead at this level?
We have talked so much about this over the last probably 2 months. And for me, it was always elevating from always working in the business to working on the business.
Sure.
I'm an operator at heart, so I'm always going to be in the business no matter what, but you have to do both. And being able to delegate and let your teams work in the business while you're working on the business.
Do you have any, and obviously, thinking about that, how has it shaped maybe your thesis in real estate? Because you've seen a lot. You've been at different companies. You've been through cycles. Tell me a little about your thesis in real estate.
Yeah, it's a cycle. Real estate's a cycle, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately or unfortunately, I've been around enough to see plenty of cycles. So I know that it'll ebb and flow, right? So I think that that's great. But at the same time, I take a look around and I see the people that we're surrounded with. And like, it's very inspiring to be here at NMHC, for instance, because there's people here that were leaders to me and people that I was a leader to. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really great that it comes full circle. And one of the things that Melissa and I have really decided, we feel that one of the reasons we're doing Elliron is because we think that there is a space within the multifamily space that allows for us to take the things that we felt could be improved, mm-hmm. really listening to the clients, really listening to the teams and the residents, and formulating a way for us to serve those people and really take care of the pain points that not only have we seen, but we've lived through.
What's a decision early on, that matter far more for people to realize when building a company that lasts for decades? What are some of the things you really have to think about doing early on in your career?
I mean, you have to find the right people to surround yourself with.
Okay.
I mean, it's all about the people. You empower the people, you train them up, you build them up, the results come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really surrounding yourself with the right people.
Absolutely. And, I think everybody probably knows respect is not commanded. It's earned, right? So you bring on people. I learned early on that I had to listen to everybody that was around me. And also I brought on people that had far more talents. Mm-hmm. And Melissa and I are doing the same thing. Yeah. We bring on people that can still help us. They're even above and beyond where we're at. We're not trying to push people down or, we want to still learn. We still want to be the best. And so in order to do that, you have to hire up, not down.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want people that are better at certain things than we are, so we can learn from each other.
I love that. You have an abundance mindset. I've seen that. I've witnessed it in the hallways at events. You're very friendly with other organizations. Never, and I think one of the most important things is that we're only here for so long. And, the people you get to work with, as you say, so important. And you might be competing with someone one day and you might recruit them to your team the next day.
Exactly.
And you were at different companies,
Yep.
right? Might have been direct competitors. And so, I think that's really important to think about is your reputation. And as you both have managed billions of dollars of AUM, right? Responsibility for these massive assets. And we're building housing for families across the country. So I'd love to ask you, what advice you have for others, following your footsteps and thinking about housing as a responsibility, not just an asset class, but actually about building that community.
You have to remember it's people's homes.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, this is where they have their loved ones. This is where they share meals together. This is where they have holidays together. Mm-hmm. And if you keep that at the back of your mind in every decision that you make, you'll be very successful.
Do you have any advice and any stories from maybe over the years of thinking about the residents and the buildings and stepping in to think of and I think about the stories you've shared around safety and security, right? Especially in the student housing world where your son or daughter is going off in the world. You have kids and you think about them going off in the world on their own, and you're always worried for that phone call. My dad was a police officer and firefighter, and he was always worried about us at night.
Oh yeah. So
do you have any stories around making sure you're protecting these families and these kids, that stood out to you over the years?
Yeah, I just look at it like no matter who I'm looking at, that is somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's brother, etc. And I felt like whether we're providing the homes for people like Melissa said and making sure that they are not only respected, but we know who they are. We know the name of their dog. We know who their children are. We know their affinities, what they like, etc. But I think that is same thing in our industry as well. And the people that work with us is making sure that building a community is so important, which means it's not just, delving out a bunch of orders and saying, do this or that. It's really embracing and working with these people as a team, making sure you build this community within the big community here at NMHC, within the community of housing and, within your team.
Obviously in tech and innovation, tech was at the forefront today at the pitches where they were pitching ways to turn around communities, maybe, decades old. How do you come in and invigorate it and create an ROI, but really focus on that resident engagement? tech was the number one thing they talked about, whether it was innovation of hardware, innovation of systems and AI, you name it, responsiveness to residents. But I would love to ask you, as we think about continuing to innovate with tech and hardware without chasing the shiny objects, is there anything that you're really focusing or honing in on, or is it more that theory? I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts.
A little bit of both, I think. Yeah, it's a little bit of the theory and what you see for the future, but what's realistic for today. And then what the need of the client and the asset is. So I've spent the last month demoing every product I think that's out there, and deciding what's best for Elliron and what's best for our clients. With all the AI that's out there, it's fantastic, right? It buys back time, but what are we doing with that time?
Yeah.
So technology is a great tool, but we have to take it back to the basics.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so important. We can talk all day long about investors, very important. But I've heard some great things. Richard Branson always said, if you take care of your people, you give them the resources, the ability to make decisions and responsibility, in his hotels, his airlines, all the businesses he's done, they take care of the people. They know better than me. They discover, they're having the conversations, and that will take care of the rest.
Exactly.
Right. And so, I want to ask you, Laurie, thinking about that, what are maybe some of the things you've seen that the industry gets wrong that you have a different perspective on? Is there something that maybe you've seen that you have a different theory that maybe other people, it's a hot take from Laurie?
Yeah, well, I think that the biggest thing that people get wrong, or that we get wrong, is that we think residents and prospects are all about the location or the amenities or how much is it going to cost me to be here, when it's really not. It's about the experience. And so we've come full circle in the industry where, nothing. I can remember being on a blind tour, of an apartment, and the leasing person is taking me through the units and things, and would be like, this is the swimming pool, this is the fitness center, and here is your large closet. And I'm thinking, okay, that's a little bit belittling, because I know what a pool is, I know what a fitness center is, but what is it going to do for me, right? So I think that that's where we get it wrong. It's like, I have to listen to that person as a prospect and really kind of understand what it is. Like, are they people that are going to really work out? And if they're not, then don't make a big focus on it.
Yeah.
Or if this person's walking around with a Gucci handbag, right? Like, the first thing I'm going to say is like, check out this closet for your great handbags, etc. So it's like, to me, it's much more about activating the experience and getting them excited. And honestly, team members are the same, right? So,
yeah, everybody just wants to be seen.
So scaling with discipline, I think, is an important thing to talk about. As companies are scaling nationally, certain people do focus in on certain markets. Some are more national. What's maybe the hardest leadership trade-off you've had to make that most people never see from the outside?
Well, for me, it's always been kind of having to whoa my horses, right? Chris, I love horses.
Yep.
And we all like to run in that full on speed, right? But it's really kind of slowing down, building that foundation, and knowing that the rewards for it sometimes are not immediate, right? Like, you have to be patient. I've had to learn to be patient with myself, with others on my team, etc., because you have to be able to know it's like building a house. First, it's the foundation. And it's not as rewarding. The walls start going up, and then it starts again. You start getting the rooms and decorating, right? And you get very excited. And then that's when the returns really set in, is at that point. But you have to be in for kind of the long ride and know that, just be patient.
Yeah, right now as a company, we're all together reading the Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, and almost having a book club every Friday and talking through it as we're scaling up. We're doing it as a company together to scale up.
So, and that's important. I think, you can learn a lot when you dig in deep. And this isn't a question that's on here, but as you're talking about this, I think something around vulnerability, right? And story share. Is there a challenge either of you could share, or a situation you were in that was actually really tough, and maybe you had to step back a step or two in your career, but has been transformational into where you are today? Is there anything that you've witnessed or seen that was a moment? And I think I'll think back to myself. In our early days, building laundry lockers and package lockers, one of the hardest things was I was trying to sell to everyone. I was thinking everyone was my customer. And I realized we were spinning our wheels, and I needed to really focus and hone in and say, no, all of that can wait. I need to focus on the people who actually do care to spend money with me and see the value and see the need. And that was one of those transformational things for me, was learning from Brian Chesky at Airbnb, I got to meet him, and he said, focus on 1,000 people who love you than 100,000 who kind of, sort of.
That's great.
So was there something that stood out to you in your careers that really made an impact, from you, and that has transformed your entire journey to this day?
Well, I think for me, like as I walk through the halls here of NMHC, and it's like, hello, hello, how are you? Haven't seen you. So good to see you.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for getting me through that tough time, etc. Exactly what you said, Chris, is like, surround yourself with people, get to know them, make it matter. And then it just doubles. And
Yeah.
then it doubles even more. So and it's sort of like taking that slow walk, and then that turns into, being for the long haul, and then the race is there.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point is, I've learned one of the greatest things, and I thought that the great leaders and CEOs led with fear, led with fierceness.
That's what we learn not to do.
Yeah. And no, you can be kind. You can choose to be friendly and helpful and pay it forward and still be successful. I saw David Schwartz last night.
Oh, yeah.
And we were catching up, and one of the kindest people, leads with a smile, leads with purpose. And, Christy, Simonet earlier, and Laurie Baker and Julie Smith, and these people who lead with kindness, give you their time. Toby Bizzuto,
Yes.
who still comes to the events. But, I would ask you, what is it about, why do people think they have to lead that with that fear? As you talked about earlier, that you don't. What is it? Did you believe that you had to as well at some point in your careers, or?
I think I learned early on when I had a leader that was that way.
Yeah.
That was not me. That wasn't me. It was never going to be me.
Did you have that situation where somebody led that way, and you could feel the
back when
fear?
I was an on-site assistant manager, I had a manager that was that way, and I remember having a regional that was that way, and a VP, and just thinking, oh my gosh, when I'm in their position, that is not at all what I want to be.
Have you had that situation too?
Cry. Yeah, like I've seen people cry, and then I've seen other people feel like, yeah, I made them cry. You know what I mean? And like I think back at it because when I started boots in the ground as a leasing person or whatever, I used to be scared, and I wanted to make sure that I performed well. And so when I used to see people cry, it was terrible. But you mentioned David. Well, he's got Stephanie Brock now, right, working side by side. And I remember one time when I was going to have an interview with Stephanie Brock, and I was just like, I'm going to meet this woman. And the thing that was so impressive, and we saw her a couple times today and talked to her, but the thing that was the most impressive for me was the fact that everywhere she went, everybody knew who she was, loved who she was. With Stephanie, it's been 10 years. It's been forever. I've learned this from you and stuff. I wanted to be Stephanie. I wanted people to remember that I was a positive part of their growth and their book of business and how they came along in this industry. That was important.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, talking about, sitting here today and what legacy we wanted to leave, and wanting to have somebody sit in this chair 10 years from now saying that stuff about us.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Especially at a legacy business where people are putting their names in the buildings, right?
Exactly.
A lot of times. I think one of the other things I want to ask you about is, how do you protect culture and a people first leadership as portfolios and teams and complexity continue to grow?
So for us, it comes down to our core values.
Okay.
We hold tried and true to our core values. When we go through the interview process, we're looking for skill, of course, but we're looking for personality more than skill. I can teach you the skill. I can't give you a personality. So we go through a series of interviews, the last one being a core values interview.
Okay.
And it's with two random people in our company. They don't know what position they're applying for. They have no idea what skill set they have. And it's literally just questions about culture, their personality, and whether or not they're going to fit within our organization. And then they learn what position, and it's either a thumbs up or thumbs down, but that's the last interview that they go through.
Awesome. Anything to add there on the culture? I know a lot of people talk culture, but the thing that stands out about, you and
culture, right? Like everybody talks about culture, but it's living it. It's really executing it and making sure I like, this was one of the things that I thought was really great that we were going to do with Elliron is, and I went through too, like I sat down and really just had a conversation, and there's no way, it's not like a personality test checking the boxes or whatever. It's just a discussion like this. And you can really tell by the way that people communicate with you, whether or not it's going to be a right fit culturally. And
on both sides of the table.
On both sides of the table. Yeah. And, we just feel like you have to hire people for the right personalities. So, we're doing that. That was reinforced by the book that we're reading. Also, and said that it's like having the people with the right personality. That's the most important part. That is what builds down and doubles down on the culture, is having people around you with the right personality.
I think, something else as we're thinking about it, and you step back and think about the legacy you're building, as you said, what do you hope your teams and residents are going to say that you truly optimized? What do you hope that they say about you?
It really comes back to people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel loved. And so recognizing somebody, oh, good to see you, and Fluffy, or whatever the dog cat's name, or asking about their kids, and even conversations that we've had around here. Every single conversation I've been a part of, she knows everybody's kids, where they're going to college, their names, how old they are. And so, just listening to her have these conversations, that you take that back, and that's the on-site experience as well. We want our teams to feel that. We want our residents to feel that.
It's important.
And talk about passing it on, right? Like Melissa and I were both catching up on a few calls before this. And I said to Melissa, oh, my daughter just texted me, she's first year in college, and she just texted me, good luck, Mom, on the podcast. You're going to do great. And so that's what I consider passing it on, right? Like, here's my daughter saying to me, you're going to do great. And that's what I want, is I want people that I work with to be encouraging the next group of people, and knowing that you can do it. You can do whatever you want. Set your sights on whatever you want.
I love that. That's great. Obviously keeping those relationships. I hope my kids get in this business one day. Obviously as the internet, and these videos can live on, I'm going to ask you about this week. I think this week is one of the best barometers of the industry and the economy. Our deals getting done. So what are your outlooks for 2026? Is there anything that you think is going to stand out? There's one thing that I would quote you on, and we're going to look back in December and see if it actually happened. Is there something that you're thinking or focused on?
Well, I think we're here with the anticipation that we think it's going to be great the next couple of years. And we felt like it was time for us to introduce a company that may come out and be a little bit different, a little bit more nimble, and that there's management counts now, right? Like, we're not getting double-digit rent increases and things like that. And so we feel that we have to get back to the basics. We want to be able to serve not only our residents, but our clients as well. And we want them to come to us and help us. How do you want it done? Because it's just not a cookie cutter. No one shoe fits all. Yeah. And I think we're about to implode into that area right now, to really make sure deals can be done, to make sure deals are successful, make sure you have successful teams. I think that's what we're embarking on, and we feel the time is right. And really, it has been so reinforced. Every meeting that we've had back to back, people were like, that's what I'm looking for. Keep talking.
Yeah. Now they're like, now you're resonating with me.
Yes. Right. That word, us hearing that was really great. We're like, we're ready. We're ready for this.
Love it. Anything I should have asked you, or anything you'd like to share before we part ways today?
I want to talk about the meaning behind our name.
Yes, yeah. Elliron. Tell me, what is this? A music song? Is it a?
She is so excited to tell the story.
So L is woman, female, like the magazine that we
L.
watch.
Okay,
that's
women.
The L part. Iron. Strong, hard, right? So strong women.
Strong, hard women. We love it.
And that's us.
Okay. I love it. Well, and it was great this week. I mean, that was something that people said is, they felt like 15 years ago, there were just a few women here, and there's more and more. Over 1,000 women signed up for the women's event on Monday, which was phenomenal.
Incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah. And it wasn't that long ago, Chris, in 2004, I was the only female CEO on the list of the top 50 management companies in size.
Wow.
As a female.
Amazing.
And here we are. Co-founding this new company, and you take a look at that list now, and it really feels empowering, right? We've made it, and I hope that we are inspiring the next ones to be on that list.
Yeah, right. More and more panels with, and I'm seeing more and more great panels with, majority women on them, which is great, or all women. So, all right, well, thank you both for joining me. Thanks so much, and I can't wait to come see y'all. As you expand your portfolio, and we'll have to do a follow up later this year to see how things are going.
Yes,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Thank you.